What are Manchester United getting with Matthjis de Ligt? Really interesting character. It sometimes divides opinion. It's gone from, one great team to another in different countries. He was at Ajax initially, of course, before going on to Bayern. He's at Manchester United now. And along the way, he even had time to play for Juve. So what are they getting from him?
I think they're getting a young centre-back, a ball-playing centre-back. Who has got experience at an elite level and who, for me, can still potentially be a world-class centre-back as well. And it's at a fee that you'd say is quite reasonable for all the reasons that I've listed about the player.
United have played this well, I think.
I think really well.
But why didn't it work out for him at Bayern if he's that good?
Who's to say it didn't work out? I think this is a bit of a myth going around about De Ligt at Bayern. To be honest with you, if you look in his 2 seasons there, he started regularly. He started 61 games. Upamecano, for instance, another centre back there, in the same time played 68. There's only 7 games difference between them.
And I think you could argue that De Ligt has been better than Upamecano.
Well, this is going to bring us to my next point. I think he's left Bayern because they had an offer for him. He had market interest in Manchester United. I don't think there was. I think they got 60 million offer for Upamecano before they got one for De Ligt, but the interest wasn't there for Upamecano. I think they would have sold Upamecano. By course they would, easily. But it hasn't arrived, and there was interest from Man United, and they knew about Manchester United's interest because of the Ten Hag connections and previous interest and such. I think it's a phenomenal move for Man United, to be honest with you. If you look at them at the start of the window, and they were chasing Jared Brantwaite and then getting quoted 70, 75 million for him. And they've managed to get Masraoui and De Ligt for under that price.
Yeah.
It's a great bit of business. So you can laugh at the Ten Hag, Ajax connections, these Dutch links and all you want. It's an excellent bit of business to get 2 players of their ages as well in for your squad and add to that depth and clear improvement on what they had, what they have. So yeah, they should be excited about that.
Masraoui, is he as good a deal as De Ligt?
No, I don't think he is. I never thought he was quite good enough to start for Bayern, to be perfectly honest. And the reality is neither did they, which is why they've moved him on. Now, where they go from this Bayern, it's something they really needed. I mean, as David has said throughout the show, really, I think a lot of these moves that we're seeing are, if a club's selling a player, it's not necessarily a knock on a player. It's just a more realistic appraisal of market conditions, really.
Circumstance, it really is.
Yeah, it is. And I agree. I think De Ligt, like you said, he's been through a few clubs. I think at Juventus, you look at the fact that you thought, well, he's in the perfect place to learn to be an absolute elite defender. He's already a really good one by the time he left Ajax, of course, for a lot of money. But the idea is he will learn off Bonucci and Chiellini, and it'll be the ultimate finishing school for a centre-back. Of course, you've got to get past those 2 guys first, which is, I think, something that was a bit of an issue for him. It went from gradually bleeding him in to not really finding a place for him. And I think, people still rate him.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like his issues with the Netherlands, because you've got to get past Virgil van Dijk, haven't you, to be
and Stefan de Vrij, exactly.
And he sat on the bench throughout the Euros.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's fair. But he just needs a home now, and I think if United can invest their faith in him, then great. But in terms of the Bayern end of it, this is something they really needed to do, because a little bit like Manchester City, until very recently, they have not paid big money for players. They've not gone out and spent like 150 million, 200 million on players. Like, that's why the Kane transfer was such a jarring occurrence, really, because they paid that amount of money for someone with a year left on his contract, albeit the England captain and an absolute sure thing. Because what Bayern have habitually done, a bit like a German version of Manchester City, they've paid sort of moderately high fees and enormous wages, really. That has been their way of doing things. Now, what problem does that create? Well, the problem it creates, the very obvious problem it creates, the one that we're seeing a lot of Premier League clubs struggling with, is once you've had enough of players and you want to get rid of them. How do you get rid of them? If they're getting paid an absolute fortune, that's really hard. So for them to get the ball rolling, because they had a great start to the transfer window. So they're getting Palhinha, who they've wanted for a while. They're getting Ito to strengthen them at centre-back, even though he's subsequently got injured. You get Elise, who could be an absolute key player for them. They really needed to reinforce that midfield. But you think, where next? Now, the where next was probably going to be Jonathan Tah. They haven't quite managed to do that deal, partly because of the funding issue. Because, you know, when you're signing players, I mean, that if they end up signing Tah, it'll cost them like 30 million top whack, because he's only got a year left on his contract, which I think is a great deal, by the way, for a Germany starting centre-back. But the wages will be a lot. So they need to clear some of that. Now, another one on the block, of course, is Leon Goretzka. Now, when we talk about reinforcing that midfield, it's been such a disappointment for them. When we talk about all the defensive issues that Bayern have had over the last couple of years, the midfield was meant to be built for a generation around Kimmich and Goretzka, and it just hasn't worked for a variety of reasons. Now, Kimmich, they've had a sort of a bit of an about turn because he's got a year left on his contract. It looked like he would be off either to Barcelona or PSG this summer, but it now appears he will stay. They're talking about a new contract with him. But Goretzka, another one on huge wages, who they are looking to move on, who will be problematic to move on. And I guess Kingsley Coman falls in that bracket as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, not that Barca really want to pay a lot of money for him, so Bayern might need to send him elsewhere. Yeah, Bayern, I mean, you're about wages and what have you as well. Bayern need to spend their money better. You look at their track record with signings in the past couple of years, and it's been really poor.
It has.
Mane, Kim Min-jae, Boy, jury's still out there, I think. Matthjis de Ligt, again, not really integrated fully. Gravenberch, like, these are all players that haven't come to fruition for them, and they spent decent money on them.
On the other hand, firstly, I think Tell will get there. Secondly, Gravenberch, if you look at where we are at the moment and what we've talked about through all the show, the Gravenberch deal, despite being something they seem to have a bit of buyer's remorse for, actually did all right, because they signed a player who, again, his contract was running down. They ended up selling him to Liverpool for like quite a big profit in the end, even though he was totally superfluous to them. I guess this feeds back into what we were talking about. In whatever position you are, whether you're a Bayern, whether you're a Juventus, whether you're a Roma, whether you're a Barcelona, you need to trade really aggressively at the moment to get where you want to go. And that's why I think, as I said last week, the last couple of weeks of this transfer window are going to be like busy, because it's not just about going and buying who you want. It's about trading.
Can't wait to enjoy the rest of this season.